thank you for joining me today. It's Sandra back with another project, and I really think that this is a very good project. I'm really pleased and thrilled with the way this has turned out. As you can see, it's a little Tic Tac box, and what's it stuck onto but an envelope. And on the top of my Tic Tac box is a beautiful, what I call shabby chic flower, and I'm really rather pleased with it. I'm going to show you what's inside in a moment, but first I want to tell you that it was completely inspired by one of my Telford swaps, which is this, and this opened. On inside was the cutest miniature little box of Tic Tacs you've ever seen, and this completely inspired me. Now this box with the envelope stuck to it was created by Suzanne of cwlcards.stampinup.net. So if you want to have a little look at her blog site, feel free to do that. So thank you, Suzanne, for your inspiration. Inside the little envelope was just Suzanne's details. There was nothing inside. But this completely inspired me to want to do my own project. So inside mine, I have still kept with the Tic Tacs, but a larger box. I've put this beautiful shabby chic flower, I call it, on top. I'll show you how I excuse me, created that in a moment. And inside my envelope, I have made, whoops, my Tic Tacs seem to have fallen out. Inside my box, I've made this card. Now this is for a birthday, and I've created this beautiful effect with the sassy framelits dies. But inside my card, it's a gift card, and so you can put any card in. Could be coffee, could be Next, M&S, any shop that you think the person you're gifting to this would like. In it goes in this little slot that I've created with the decorative label punch. So today is part one. I'm going to split this project into two parts. Today I'm doing part one, and today I'm going to show you how I created this little box with the shabby chic flower and the envelope. So let's get started with that. So I've used the Blooms and Bliss designer series paper, and on this other side is some beautiful flowers, but we're going to use our plainer side for our box. And this measures 6 7/8 by 2 7/8, which is 17.5 by 7 centimetres. And we're going to score it on the long side at 5/8 of an inch, 3 1/8 of an inch, 3 6/8 of an inch, and 6 1/4 inches. And then that in centimetres is 1.5, 8, 9.5 and 16 centimetres. Turn it round to the short side, and we're going to score it at 5/8 of an inch and 2 1/4 inches. And in centimetres, that's 1.5 and 5.5. So that's the scoring done for our little Tic Tac box. So we're going to burnish all those score lines very, very softly, because with this being the designer series paper, it's obviously not quite as thick as the cardstock, so we don't want to tear our lovely paper. Before I continue, I'm just going to do a little notch out, like I've got in this here, a little finger pull notch. So we're going to do that on one end before we start folding it up and I forget to cut it. So we'll just do that. taking our scissors, we're going to cut up like you would for any normal box, just a slight notch out, not too much. This paper is very hard to see. I don't know if you can see it any better this side. I hope so. I'll just cut that out with a small notch. And you do exactly the same on the opposite side. Get rid of the bits. Now what I've done on the box here, I've rounded off the edges here because I do like to see rounded off edges, and when that closes down that just looks so much nicer than a straight edge. So using my Project Life Corner Rounder punch, you want to go to the same side as you've done your finger pull notch, and we're going to go in here like this. Like that. You need to maybe get that out of the way so that you can see where your line is. So you can see how that lines up on that side, and do your little notch. And then you go to the opposite side and do the same. Like that. And then just neaten up those little edges at an angle. I probably should have just cut a little whisper off more. Neaten that up. That's it. So that's that. Get rid of the rubbish. And I'm just going to put my box together today with a bit of fast fuse for speed. What's going on with this? That's better. Right, now when you're making your box up, you need to remember which is the top part of your lid, and then that will mean then that you have got your finger pull on the right side, because if you forget about that when you're making this up, you'll land up with the finger pull part on the wrong side. And stick that together. And that together. And that's our little box made. And we get our little box of Tic Tacs, drop that in, and that closes down over the top. So that's our box made. So now I'm going to show you the little shabby chic flower. Now, the way I've created this, you can see that these flowers are very sort of scrunched, and that is created by cutting out your flowers. So this uses the pansy punch, and for the middle I used the petite petals punch. When you cut your flowers out, you will need 3 of the pansy punch and 1 of the petite petals punch. And what you do is you lay it on your kitchen surface, and you get a little spray bottle with water in, and you spray that to soak the paper. This then gives you more room to manipulate the paper, and I have done that here about 5 minutes ago. Wet the paper, and I've got hold of the middle and scrunched it together like that, and it looks a mess. You think, my goodness, what the heck am I going to do with those? But you will see that when they are dry, you can dry them quickly with a little heat tool, or you can leave them to dry naturally overnight, and then the following day or whenever they're dry, you open them up again and pull them. They will easily pull into a shape because they will be dry, and then you layer them together. So this is a dry one, and you can see that it's all beautifully dry, and I've layered it up with glue dots, one on top of the other, and offset it slightly from each other as I've gone round with the layers, and the petite petals one goes in the centre. And in the centre of my flower I have used these little white accents in the centre because I just thought that they looked rather nice and made a change. So I think it's this size that I've used. I'll just check that. Yes, this size. And I've just pushed that into the centre like that. Press that down with your fingers and pull that back up again. Make sure that's stuck, and you can see that that has created a really beautiful flower. To do my leaves, I've got this little, it's like a poinsettia leaf punch. This was in the Christmas catalogue, but it's still available to buy now, and you can cut yourself leaves, which I've done here. I've cut one in that size there, the medium, and one in the ones that are stuck together. So that's what they look like when they are cut out, like that. And then in order to manipulate them, you get your bone folder and you just pull them up, or whichever way, up and then up like that. And then I've cut these two in half and done the same thing with those. Manipulate them up and down. Point up. So that's our flowers. So we're now going to put those onto our little box here with some glue dots. So we start with the flower, and I've put a couple of glue dots on here just to make sure that it stays nicely stuck, and press that down onto the middle of the box, and already that's starting to look very pretty, and it just finishes it off nicely. And stick your little leaves on with a couple of glue dots, and I've just noticed that the leaves don't show up too well here. Shall I put my pen with them? You might want to bear that in mind when you do yours, that maybe you might want to do the leaves in a darker green. But as I've prepped these up today, we're going to leave them the colour that they are. But then they blend in nicely, still look pretty. So not a problem. So put your leaves in with your glue dots and pull them up like that. So that is our little box made, and now we're going to make our envelope for it to sit onto. So this is the same Blooms and Bliss Designer Series paper, which I have cut at 8.5 inches by 8.5 inches. And you will need your envelope punch board to make this envelope. And we are putting it into our scoreboard. into our envelope punch board at 3 3/4 here. Press down, punch down, and with your scoring tool score down to the bottom. Turn it on the opposite side to what you've just done. 3 3/4 again, punch and score. Excuse me. And then go round to the 2 opposite sides you haven't punched, and you mark this little notch up with the score line that runs down here. You punch and score. Turn it round to the opposite side where you have your score line. Punch down and score. And then we want nice round edges to our envelope, so we put it in the top of the board and punch down on all 4 sides. Get rid of that, we don't need that. And then with our bone folder, gently burnish those lines. Like that. So I'm just going to put my card in from my other envelope size, because the best thing to do, because this is slightly thicker, this envelope, than you would normally have, because you've got your gift card in there, I put that in and close that down on itself. Get some fast fuse or whichever glue you prefer to use, and run that down there. And then on the opposite side of our flap, like that, and then press down, and then you know that your envelope, your card will fit in there perfectly every time. So take that out, fold the envelope up, and now we can stick our box onto our card. So a bit of fast fuse on the bottom of this, or you could use wet glue, like that. Round like that. Put that on our box, and I think you'll agree that that looks really very, very pretty. So that is part 1 of our project today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and please do join me tomorrow when we have part 2. And until tomorrow, it's bye for now. Bye.